Before you scroll, please, take a second to subscribe. This story will remind you that kindness never ages, respect costs nothing, and courage from the heart can still change the world. Now, let me tell you a story about a woman named Margaret Hale, and the day her gentle wisdom taught an entire town the true meaning of respect. Margaret Hale was 65 years old, with silver hair that shimmered like moonlight and hands shaped by a lifetime of giving. She wasn't rich. She wasn't famous. But she carried something rarer, a heart full of kindness, courage, and quiet dignity. She lived in a small house by the edge of town, where the garden bloomed wild and free, and wind chimes sang softly in the evening breeze. Every morning, she made tea for herself and her 12-year-old granddaughter Lily, who lived with her since her parents had passed. Lily was bright, full of life, but she was growing up in a world that moved too fast, a world that sometimes mistook kindness for weakness. "Grandma," Lily would say, watching her leave little notes of thanks for the mailman or bake bread for a lonely neighbor, "why do you always do things for people who don't even notice?" Margaret would smile. "Because, dear, kindness is not for the ones who see it, it's for the world that needs it." Those words didn't mean much to Lily yet. But life had a lesson waiting. One afternoon, Lily came home from school with tears on her cheeks. She threw her bag onto the couch and cried, "They laughed at me again, Grandma. They said my shoes are old, and that I smell like your house." Margaret walked over slowly, her voice steady and calm. "Did you tell them how words can hurt?" Lily shook her head. "They wouldn't care. No one listens to someone like me." Margaret knelt beside her. "Oh, my love, people forget that respect begins with how we see others, and ourselves." She brushed Lily's hair from her face. "You carry my heart, and that means you carry kindness. That's not weakness, that's courage." But that night, as Lily slept, Margaret sat by the window and sighed. She worried that the world was changing too quickly, that the values she'd spent her life teaching were being left behind. A week later, it was Saturday, a crisp morning wrapped in the scent of rain and blooming jasmine. Margaret decided to take Lily out for lunch. Not to any fancy place, but to the new cafe downtown called the Willow House, a place Lily had been talking about for weeks. "Are you sure, Grandma?" Lily asked as they got ready. "It's kind of expensive." Margaret smiled. "I saved for it. A little treat for my favorite girl." They arrived to find the cafe bustling, soft jazz playing, couples chatting, the hum of cutlery and life. Margaret stepped up to the counter, hand resting gently on Lily's shoulder. "Good afternoon, young man," she said to the waiter. "Could we have a small table, please?" The waiter, a tall man in his 20s, barely looked at her. His eyes skimmed over her faded coat, her old handbag, and her worn shoes. "We're full," he said flatly. Margaret glanced around. Several empty tables gleamed near the window. "Oh, we don't mind waiting," she said kindly. "Just a small table will do." He sighed, impatient. "I said we're full. Maybe try the diner across the street. Cheaper too." The words landed like stones. People nearby turned their heads. Lily's cheeks burned. She wanted to speak, but Margaret's gentle hand held her back. "It's all right," she whispered. "Let's go." But before they could leave, a voice rang out. "Mrs. Hale." Margaret turned. A woman in a crisp cream blouse and black skirt was hurrying toward her, Evelyn Ross, the cafe owner. "Mrs. Hale." "Oh my goodness, it is you," she exclaimed. "You taught me in high school, English literature, remember? You used to tell us, the kindest hearts write the most powerful stories." The waiter's posture stiffened. His face drained of color. Evelyn turned on him sharply. "Did you just refuse to serve her?" He stammered, I didn't know." Evelyn cut him off. "This woman taught me respect. She taught me courage. She made me believe I was more than what people said I was." Her voice trembled. "And this cafe, my cafe, exists because she once told me I could do anything if I led with kindness." The entire restaurant went silent. Even the background music seemed to fade. Evelyn gestured grandly. "Mrs. Hale, please, the best seat in the house." Lily's eyes filled with tears. Her grandmother smiled gently, the same calm grace in her voice. "There's no need for anger, Evelyn." The young man didn't know. Let this moment be a lesson instead. She turned to the waiter, who now stood frozen in shame. Young man, she said softly, people remember how you treat them long after they forget your face. Kindness and respect cost you nothing, but they buy you something no money can. The waiter bowed his head. I'm sorry, ma'am. Margaret nodded. That's where courage begins, in admitting when we've forgotten compassion. If this moment touched your heart, pause for just a second, subscribe, share, or comment one word that defines respect for you. Because stories like this remind us that kindness is not old-fashioned, it's everlasting. They sat near the window, sunlight pooling over the table. The waiter, humbled, served them himself, carefully, respectfully. Every table in the cafe had fallen into quiet reflection. People murmured softly, not gossip, but gratitude. An older man leaned toward his wife. That lady reminded me of my mother, he whispered. She used to say, you don't lose anything by being kind, you just gain peace. Margaret smiled at Lily. See, dear? Kindness doesn't shout. It shines. Lily nodded, eyes wide. I understand now, Grandma. You didn't just teach it, you live it. Margaret took her hand gently. The world doesn't change because we fight to be louder. It changes when we choose to stay gentle, even when others aren't. Weeks passed. The story of that day spread quietly through town. Someone had filmed the encounter on their phone, and it went viral online. Comments poured in, she reminded me of my grandma. We need more people like her in this world. Respect, that's the real luxury we've forgotten. The young waiter, his name was Ryan, visited Margaret a month later. He brought flowers. I wanted to thank you, he said. I was raised to chase success, not kindness. But that day, it changed me. Margaret smiled. Success fades, Ryan. But respect, that's what makes a man worth remembering. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I've started volunteering at the community kitchen. Feels good to give something back. Margaret patted his hand. You found your courage. Don't lose it. Years passed. Lily grew into a strong, compassionate young woman. When she was 18, she wrote an essay that won a national competition titled, Kindness, the Quiet Courage That Builds a Better World. In her speech, she said, my grandmother once showed me that respect isn't demanded, it's earned, and that kindness doesn't make you small, it makes you unforgettable. The crowd gave her a standing ovation. And in that audience sat Margaret, tears glistening in her eyes, her heart full, knowing her legacy wasn't in fame or fortune, but in character passed down through generations. On her 69th birthday, Margaret sat once again on her porch, watching the sunset spill gold across the sky. Lily sat beside her, resting her head on her shoulder. Grandma, she said softly, you were right. The world still needs kindness. Margaret smiled faintly. The world will always need it, dear. Because courage without compassion is just noise, and kindness without respect is just habit. But when you carry both in your heart, you change lives. They sat in silence as the wind chimes sang. No grand applause. No spotlight. Just two souls, one passing wisdom, the other receiving it, like a flame that never dies. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and share it with someone who believes the world still needs kindness. Because in the end, kindness is courage, courage earns respect, and respect builds the legacy of love that outlives us all.